What are we going to talk about today? I can assure you right off the bat, I'm not qualified to talk about organic farming, what's required to be organic, and although we may talk about food, I can't tell you from a scientific perspective. So if you clicked on this and you saw organic, you're going to be like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. Okay, I'm not a expert on that. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. All right. I'm just a pastor. Yeah, just a pastor. But I want to help you in an area of your life that I feel like we're struggling, but I will talk about the overall. And we'll get going right here. Organic manufacture. What does that even mean, right? If you think about it, just what I talked about coming into this with advertisement, organic means it just happens. Organically means it begins to happen through relationships, connections, things that just occur. Now, from a biblical perspective, and excuse me if you're not a Bible scholar or even really sure how you feel about that really old book that is the oldest book in print, has a lot of people from a lot of different directions and perspectives telling the same story in their own language. Weird, right? But we won't get into how it's right or how it's wrong. I'm not trying to prove it to you, but if you talk to me, we could share some time. But I'm getting back to this. From the beginning of the book, God intended organic growth, right? He made it all begin to happen. And his desire would it would begin to grow and grow and grow. Now, what happened along the way, and we could get into sin and all of those things, but of course, along the way, somebody said, you know what? I could grow that a little bit faster if I changed this. I could grow it a little bit bigger if I added this. Suddenly, it's not so organic anymore, right? Even the things that are growing are not so organic. They've been modified and shifted and changed to be bigger, faster, all the things that breeds quantity and begins to take away from the quality. Because you have to understand organically is quality. When it naturally occurs, something happens. It takes care of itself. Conflict occurs organically sometimes, and that's good. It's safe when it just naturally happens because what tends to happen is when it should organically happen, most people steer clear of it. So eventually it has to be manufactured. And by that point, both parties have been so wounded or defensive and a lot of different things that it becomes a battle instead of a healthy conflict. Think about that, right? How many times should you have had a healthy conflict? It rose in a moment, and right then and there, if you'd have said, pause the world around you and said, this is important, let's stop and talk about this. But you brushed it under the rug, you ran away from it, you just kept quiet. I'm not going to talk about it. We're just going to act like it didn't happen. And slowly over time, that thing that could have happened organically now begins to get ugly, right? It grows some hair. It's like, ugh. So now you have to manufacture a moment, but you're really not talking about the basic problem. You're actually responding to all the tentacles that come off of this conflict that could have been handled very early on, right? It's true if we really want to get down to it. So organic and manufactured, like over time, we've arrived at a place where most things in this world are not truly organic. And if you really want to dive into the organic structure of what's required by the government, the FDA, which is a whole separate episode that I'm not qualified to do, but I can assure you I could give you my opinion, and it's probably closer to the truth than the one we're being given. But if you think about the stuff the FDA approves compared to other countries, it's crazy, really. But the thing that's deemed organic by them is really not necessarily organic because there's still some things they let slide. I believe truly organic is something that is grown without outside interference. It just occurs. Think about relationships in your life that occur. It just occur. You bump into somebody, you begin small talk, and before you know it, you're talking to your soulmate that you wouldn't have seen anywhere else. You wouldn't have taken the time. And a lot of times you see these like, I wouldn't have picked that person out of a lineup to be my significant other. But when we began talking, there was a exchange, a connection that just occurred. And generally in those moments, it's an organic connection of two lives.